Hi, I'm Mia Quinn, host of Sustainably Speaking. If you've listened to the show before, you know we often talk about recycling innovations, like advanced recycling. While today's traditional recycling systems can process some used plastic, it's just nowhere near enough. But that doesn't mean there aren't solutions. For this episode, I'm turning the mic over to my friend Susan Jackson from BASF Corporation. Take it away, Susan.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Sustainably Speaking. I'm your guest host, Susan Jackson with BASF Corporation. And today we're going to learn all about how consumers, aka people like us, feel about advanced recycling. And to help me do that, I have two fabulous guests who I'm going to let introduce themselves. And I'll start with Brenda.
Hey, thank you, Susan. It's great to be here. I am Brenda Gianiny, president and founder of Access Research, a polling company. We do public opinion research for lots of corporations like Walmart and Anheuser-Busch, but also for political clients on the right side of the aisle. We're mainly known for George W. Bush, Mitch McConnell, and Liz Cheney.
And I'm Cornell Belcher, president and founder of Brilliant Corners Research and Strategies. I'm also an NBC, MSNBC political analyst, also polling overlord. I was Howard Dean's pollster, 56 Strategy, and I also worked on two presidential campaigns by this guy. What was his name? Barack Obama?
Really? Who's that?
Exactly. I've worked on both his presidential campaigns. So thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're both here with us. Somebody from the Republican side, somebody from the Democratic side. We said this is going to be about advanced recycling and what the consumers think about it. And you guys did some polling. But before we get into the results of what you discovered, I think it's interesting for the audience to understand what really makes a good poll.
I am embarrassed by the polls that the average American sees. They are designed by the media, and they're designed with one thing in mind: eyeballs, clicks, to generate income. That's not what we use polls for on campaigns. We use them to drive strategy, to look at subgroups, to know who we should be talking to, what we should be talking about. And there is great accuracy when it's done by professional pollsters and not media companies who drive a story. Cornell and I are driving for a win. If our polls are wrong, then we don't work the next day. So.
The fundamentals of polling have not changed. I think polling is both an art and a science. And I think you can get the science right, but if you don't have the art right, you're doing bad polling. I was recently involved in a mayor's race, and a lot of the polling out there, especially the public polling, that's cutting corners and trying to do it really cheaply, they had the wrong universes. None of the public polls had my candidate won by like 9 points. None of them had her even ahead. When polling is wrong, it's a lot of time is they've got the art of it wrong. There's also this other sort of bug in my bonnet, if you will, about media and polling is that they rely too heavily on it. In my opinion, most voters or consumers should hardly ever see a poll. I think when the media focuses on polling, they should take that time and focus on the differences between the candidates, because you're not really educating them on anything that they can act on, when I think the media has done a poor job of explaining and talking about what polling is actually useful for.
We said this is going to be about advanced recycling and what the consumers think about it, and you guys did some polling. But maybe before we start, I explain to the audience what advanced recycling is, just in case people don't know. It's really about taking the power of science and converting used plastics into new products that can be recycled again and again. So it's a solution that can help us with hard to recycle plastics. It works in complementariness with regular PET recycling, that things that you can mechanically recycle. So it's a great new innovation. Let me ask you both, what was your knowledge of advanced recycling before you even did the polling? Talk about what the general population, consumers, think about it.
I start off where the vast majority of Americans start off, with not a lot of background or information about what advanced recycling means. But once I heard more about it and I understood it more, I was like, wait a minute, this is fantastic. I'm absolutely all in for this, which is the same thing that happened to the voters and consumers in our poll.
And what about you, Brenda?
I'm going to agree with Cornell. We did not know a lot going in, which made it fun. We got to learn about this as we went through it, and as our consumers in the poll learned about it. And it was interesting for us, and I think our experience mimicked that polling data.
The more you know, the more you love advanced recycling.
Okay. Can you start talking to me about how you approached asking the consumers? What kind of questions? Was everybody at that same base level of like, I don't know what advanced recycling means? Did anyone know what it was? Were there certain groups who knew more than others? And was that surprising?
So we started out very broad, and we said, have you heard of the term advanced recycling? We didn't define it, have you heard of it? And what we saw is about 21% said, yep, I know what that is. And we thought, okay, that's pretty good. We know from our research there's about 11 to 13% of people that are going to lie. Then we followed that up and we said, okay, what does the term advanced recycling mean to you? And that's where we really started to see how much confusion there is. People really think advanced recycling just means super recycling or the next level of recycling. So now I get to recycle everything in my house, not just my plastics and my glass. So we found that of that 21%, less than a quarter could define it accurately. So the lesson that we took away is consumers are just like us. They're just like pollsters, maybe less nerdy, better dressed. But they think they know what it means. They think it's sort of the next iteration of recycling, but they really don't know the specifics, which is a great opportunity for us to educate, for us to tell them what it is.
Okay, how do we simplify it? How do we simplify the message? What's important to the consumer? Are these environmental implications, sustainability, circular economy, is that resonating with the general public, and is that part of their buying decisions?
I think the issue of climate has grown and it's become a voting issue, I'd say, for the left side of the political spectrum. So recycling sort of falls underneath that thematic. They're more likely to think about recycling and the environment when they make purchases.
That's absolutely right. We've seen it gain strength on the left, and that's sort of the base right now for climate, for recycling. I think it will be for advanced recycling. But like we're starting to see with climate now, it's starting to spread out. And we're seeing that climate and recycling definitely has a core base, and it's only going to grow.
For those people where the climate topics are not yet resonating with them, did you guys learn anything on why advanced recycling might be important to them, even if topics of climate change are not part of their decisions today?
So it's Republicans, particularly Republican men, particularly older Republican men. And that older Republican man, that is the person that's most likely to say, I don't care about recycling. It's fine to recycle, but I buy based on price, I buy based on quality, I don't really think about environmental factors. To that more skeptical consumer, it's really all about the economy.
I think there's a way to bring Brenda's folks in on this conversation, and we all meet at the same place, and that's around advanced recycling.
Okay. And we were talking before this podcast started, going through some of the data and, organics, the topic of organic food, people wanting more organic. You made an interesting comparison.
You go back 10 or 15 years ago, and this was not a top issue or purchasing issue for consumers. And now it's a big deal in the marketplace. And almost every grocery chain right now, and I think advanced recycling was kind of where organic industry was a decade and a half ago, Brenda?
Exactly.
Okay. And we've been talking about the consumers, which is us, and we're very important. Our lawmakers are also consumers. They have to eat. They have to do stuff too.
They get fast
food. Recycle.
Yeah.
What are their thoughts on this topic of advanced recycling? Is there support more on one side than the other, or is this a bipartisan topic that they can get behind?
I'll start and be mean, and then Brenda will be nicer.
This is true.
Our lawmakers are going to be where there's demand for them to be. And so where their constituency has a demand and puts pressure on them, that's where they're going to move. And the more you inform consumers, the more they want this, and they gravitate towards it.
I think Cornell's right. And the good news is it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, a Green, a Libertarian. Across our data, we did a survey of 1,200 voters across the entire country. 95% of Americans support advanced recycling.
That seems amazing.
It is.
And amazingly high.
Incredibly high. Cornell and I are in search of always those elusive issues. The ones we try to get are 80% of Americans agree on something. That's bulletproof. You're going to get that passed. And here with advanced recycling, we see 95% of Americans are favorable towards it. So just incredible numbers. And that includes, it's 95% of Republicans, 97% of Democrats. It was a little lower among independents, but still over 90% plus. So just really strong data and bipartisan. This really blurs the partisan lines. This is something everybody can rally behind and get behind.
Very true. And as you said, maybe somebody doesn't care about recycling for themselves. But if they understand that this is the type of industry and type of innovation that's going to create new jobs in this country, create some economic security, on top of helping climate change, which is a bonus. I mean, that's the intent, but it's a bonus. So that will also help more of the public understand why advanced recycling is a great thing.
We nailed it. We nailed it.
Nailed it.
This has been a fabulous discussion. I have learned so much from talking to the two of you and have been highly entertained. But as we kind of bring this to a close, let's make sure it's clear for our audience. Based on your polling research, some focus areas came out that really resonate with the public. So can you summarize those 3 points for us one more time?
Absolutely, happy to. And this was fabulous because you were fabulous. Thank you, Susan. I think we can have bipartisan agreement that you did a great job.
Woo! I have won today.
No, I think the key takeaways are when you talk about advanced recycling, we know all of this super cool thing scientists are doing. All of these new innovations and this new chemistry, and it's just amazing. But really, it matters to us, too, as consumers, as to humans living on this planet. Advanced recycling keeps waste out of our landfills. It creates jobs for our neighbors where we do advanced recycling. These are good paying jobs. And it helps keep us safer. It keeps all of that here being recreated, new products here in America versus shipping things off or worse, importing things from China. So it's not just sort of pie in the sky, all these fancy PhD scientists doing these neat things. It really matters to our everyday lives, and it's important to all of us.
Well said.
Thank you both so much. Mia, thank you very much for letting me be the guest host of Sustainably Speaking.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you also, Brenda and Cornell. And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. As always, please leave us a rating and review, and let us know if there are topics that you would like us to discuss on the show. I look forward to Sustainably Speaking with you soon.